Call to order this budget work session. You're up, Mark.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present the 2025 Springersbury Township budget. During my presentation, I'm going to review the budget process briefly, review the 24 actuals to date, review administrative objectives, review the 25 budget totals by fund, review the revenue and expenditure summaries for 2025, briefly go over our personnel summary, our sewers fund, and discuss the variables that may or may not happen. As you can see, the budget process is a lengthy process. It's actually almost 6 months long, which starts in July when the directors start compiling their capital improvements projects that they would like to see for the following 5 years. Then in August, the directors meet with Terry Hummel and develop their operating budgets. Then in September, I meet with Terry and each department director, and we go over the budgets line by line. And then in October, we finalize the capital improvements and the operating budgets, and we present that to the Board of Supervisors in budget work sessions, which we typically have 3 scheduled. Then in November, tonight, I present the proposed budget in a public meeting, and then final approval of the budget will happen at the board's December meeting. 2024 year to date. Revenues, property tax revenue is going to meet budget expectations. Real estate transfer tax has exceeded our projected budget expectations. Building permits, on the other hand, are a little behind, and that's due to the higher interest rates and the slow redevelopment and development of properties. The gaming revenue exceeds our expectations. We should realize about $1.8 million in 2024 from gaming revenue. And again, that revenue is restricted to our capital improvements fund. American Rescue Plan money went to support our fire and rescue contract services with YALFR. And we had another successful year with grant funding. Expenditures increased in some of our departments due to higher costs for maintenance and repair and chemicals. Recreation expanded their annual events from prior years and had another successful year of corporate sponsorships. Some of the capital improvements that we accomplished this year was some various public works equipment, IT improvements, traffic signal upgrades at several intersections, and park renovations. What are our goals, our administrative objectives when we're looking at our finances and budgeting? Our goal is to maintain the highest quality service at the lowest cost for township business, community, and our residents. Our financial strategy for 2025 was to build the budget based on the current municipal tax rate and our current fee schedule. In addition to that, we are very aggressive and continue to be pursuing grant funding. Our financial values diversify and improve our revenues and always maintain cost-effective management of our expenditures. Objectives: maintain the quality of service to our businesses and residents, maintain a balance of revenue over expenses, and continue to build our fund balance. As you can see from this slide, the township is made up of several different funds. The biggest single fund is the general fund. For 2025, the proposed budget is $21,521,589. Liquid Fuels Fund, $866,675. That fund is a state-funded for our improvements to our roadways, traffic signals, and the like. Subdivision Recreation Reserve Fund of $5,000. Petition Streetlight Fund of $100,000. Capital Improvements Fund of $4,213,044. That includes the general fund debt service, the Stormwater Water Quality Fund of $36,000, Sewer Fund, which includes the Springettsbury Sewer Fund and the Shared Municipal Sewer Fund of $12,968,190, and our other minor funds of $8,100. All of that grand totals to $39,718,598. 2025 budget is balanced at $21,521,589. As I stated, our revenue, the conservative approach to projecting our revenues. Expenses, they're stable with full staffing. Annual increases account for employee bargaining contracts, inflations of goods and services, the current fuel costs. In addition, the budget includes the major capital improvements projects for 2025 of the park security, Springettsbury Park Security and Lighting Project, Penn Oaks Park renovation, various public works equipment, the police simulator, and the police radio replacements. Important to note is the RACP grant funding of $3.5 million that we were awarded. We expect to receive that in 2025. Review of the tax structure for Springettsbury Township. The tax millage rate for Springettsbury Township is set at 1.5 mils. There is no proposed change for 2025 to that millage rate. That is the only rate tax rate governed by Springettsbury Township. The last increase was in 2018, and as we're all aware, in 2024, we reduced that tax rate from 1.7 mils to the current 1.5 mils. The county tax rate is set at 6.9 mils. The last increase that they had was in 2022. The municipal and county taxes are typically billed in February. School district tax, as we're all aware, we have two school districts within the township, Central York School District and York Suburban School District. Those tax bills generally go out in July. 2025 revenue. As you can see by the slide, a little more than 65% of the revenue that the township receives in a year is tax-based. Real estate tax is around 16.47% of the overall revenue, with the other taxes being almost half at 49.14%. And the other taxes include real estate transfer tax, earned income tax, mercantile business privilege tax. Expenditures. 2025 expenditures, public safety garners around half of the overall expenditures of the township, with the police at 35% and fire services at 16.81%, for a grand total of the $21,521,589. 2025 staffing. We approximately have 94 full-time employees that provide the various governmental services that our businesses and residents expect. Currently, we have three vacancies in 2 departments, 2 vacancies in community development, 1 in wastewater treatment. As you can see by the slide, our the dispersion of our employees are pretty well spread across 3 groups. There are 34 non-union personnel, 33 sworn officers, and 31 Teamster employees. The Teamster employees are between Public Works and wastewater treatment departments. We currently outsource our fire service to the York Area United Fire and Rescue. EMS is outsourced to, as well as engineering, IT, and our legal services. Sewer fund. As I mentioned earlier, our sewer fund is made up of 2 funds, Spring and Sperry Sewer Fund and the Shared Sewer Fund, which the Shared Sewer Fund includes the 8 contributing municipalities to our wastewater treatment system. For 2025, we have revenue of $10,017,000 with expenses of $12,968,190. When you remove the depreciation expense of $3,837,250, there's actually a net surplus in the fund of $886,060. We are not proposing any increase to sewer rates in the 2025 budget. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we have been very aggressive with applying for grants, and we've been very fortunate in receiving grants. On this slide, you can see, and I'm not going to go down through every single one of them, but you can see at $5.41 million of grants awarded on that we're still in the process of finalizing those projects and or receiving that grant funding. And this year we applied for $1.1 million of new grant funding. Forecast potential variables. We have post-retirement medical benefits in the police for retired police officers. Right now, we have roughly $185,000 budgeted for that line item. That's all dependent on claims. So that could be a potential variable. Inflation rate, they seem to be holding steady, but time will tell. Repairs and maintenance to some of our significant infrastructure, whether it be roadways, bridges, items at the wastewater treatment facility, those are unforeseen and potential. Stormwater infrastructure, that seems to crop up from time to time where we have pipe failures and things we're not aware about. And of course, unfunded mandates, which none of us like to see, but that's an unforeseen and the catastrophic event. With that, that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'll open it up to any questions.
Mark, I have one curiosity question. Do you know if there's any benchmarking data available that shows how you have our public safety, our general fund's about half the budget. Do we know how that benchmarks against other second-class townships? Are we high, low, right in the middle? Is there data available we could find out where we stand relative to second-class townships?
I don't have that information to provide off the top of my head, but I'm sure I can get data to provide.
I'm just curious as how we stack against other municipalities similar to us.
I will look into that and let you know.
Another great job, Mark and team. Terry, thank you.
It's actually
Department
the
heads.
team, the department
Yes.
directors work well together and work with Terry, and they make this easy.
Yeah, this is the culmination of a lot of work, not the start. Any thoughts, Don?
Nope, I'm good.
George, anything?
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess at this point, I would open up the floor to public comment. If there is anyone either on Zoom or in the audience that would like to address the board concerning the budget presentation this evening, either click the raise hand button on Zoom or stand and be recognized in the audience. Okay, seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back on in about 10, 12 minutes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Our first item will be a pledge to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm pleased to invite our President Commissioner Julie Wheeler up to give us a presentation about Bells Across America this evening.
On the short side here. So I just want to thank the board for the opportunity to come and join you this evening, and I will be brief. I did want to highlight that I'm here with my colleague, Brian Tate, who is the Register of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court, who is helping us lead this History Made Here initiative.
Welcome, Brian.
And I do have slides.
Do you have the slide ready, Angel?
He's working on it. I hear the bells.
There you go. Okay, so just to remind folks that we have formed a committee that Brian is chairing and I'm co-chairing called History Made Here. This came out of 3 anniversaries that we are celebrating here in our community. The first one is the 275th anniversary of our county, which started on August 19th of this year. Activities will continue throughout the year and into next year. And then the country will celebrate its 250th anniversary. And then very unique to York County is we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Articles of Confederation, which occurred here in York County as well. If you've noticed, a lot of municipalities around York County have placed up banners in recognition to commemorate these 3 anniversaries. So there's just a snapshot of what the banners look like. History made here. Oops, I went the wrong way. Okay, Angel, what am I doing? All right, I'm not going to go through all these, but I just wanted to highlight, if you were not able to join us for any of the festivities when we kicked off the county's 275th, we started on Friday night with an opening celebration that occurred at the York County History Center. If you've not been to see the new History Center, I would encourage you to go. They did a phenomenal job of renovating the steam plant there. So that happened in August. Then we moved on, and there were a couple slides in between there, but that's all right. There we go. There we go. So on Saturday, we had a big block party down outside of the York Revolution Stadium, and then followed up by baseball game and fireworks that were actually sponsored by America 250 PA. On Sunday, we had our local historian, Jim McClure. If you're not familiar with him, he's a well-known historian, not just in York County, but across the nation. We hosted a fireside chat with local talk show host Gary Sutton. That was held at the Appel Theater. And then we also, sorry, I'm not sure why, am I pressing the wrong button? There we go. Okay, got it. The other thing we did on Sunday is we created a community mural that folks that come in and paint. This was designed by local artist Ophelia Chambliss. And if you happen to be in the downtown area anytime soon, this has been hanging on the outside of the County Administration Building at 28 East Market Street on the side that faces the Yorktown Hotel. And then on Monday, which was the official kickoff to the anniversary, we had a bunch of events downtown. The last event of that day was we rang bells across York County. We worked with local churches and some of our train stations here in the community to ring bells at noon. As you can probably remember, back in those days, you rang bells to get people to come into the town to hear news. So that's just a little summary of the 275th. We also are working on rolling out a quilt project, which you all will certainly be asked to participate in. We're going to get a patch from each one of the municipalities, sew that together, and then that will be given to the York County History Center. So that brings me to one of the projects associated with the country's 250th anniversary, and that's the Liberty Tree Project. So we just dedicated our Liberty Tree outside of the Colonial Courthouse down in York City. That happened on October 17th. That project was sponsored by the Freemasons in Pennsylvania, and the grafting came from the last known Liberty tree before it was destroyed down, that was found in Annapolis, Maryland. And we are getting ready to kick off, which you'll be hearing more from us regarding each municipality getting a Liberty tree. Brian's done a lot of work with the Rotary clubs across York County, and they all have agreed to help us with this project. So there'll be more to come. You all will be getting a tree, so maybe start to think about where you might like to plant your Liberty tree. And what really brings me here today is to talk about the Bells Across Pennsylvania project. There's two parts to this project. One is regarding fiberglass bells. The other is regarding a bronze bell. So York County will be getting 6 fiberglass bells. We are number 2 in the Commonwealth regarding the number of fiberglass bells we will be getting. These will all be painted by local artists. Brian and I have been working on locations spread out across the 911 square miles of York County. Most of them will be placed along the rail trail, so easy access for our local residents and easy access for visitors who ride up and down the rail trail. And that brings me to our semi-quincentennial bell. It's a bronze bell. Each county has the opportunity to get one. Brian and I have been out raising money to cover the costs of the bronze bell. And the reason that I'm here today is to make a request that we locate the bronze bell on Camp Security, which resides in Springettsbury Township. There are some criteria by which sites are selected for the bronze bell. They will be replicas of the original Liberty Bell, and they are intended to lift up stories of communities that have been untold or not widely known. And we, in conversations with our committee, really felt like Camp Security was a great place to have us locate this bell. No cost to the township. All the costs will be incurred by the county and the money that we've raised. So no financial commitment from you all whatsoever. And lastly, if you want to learn more about all the great activities we have planned for the next 3 years, you can go visit york365.com, and they're all listed there. So I'm happy to take any questions, but looking for your support for us to locate the bronze bell at Camp Security.
Oh, we really appreciate that. So what types of events are coming across the area in the next 3 years?
So we have the quilt project going on for the county's 250th. We're working on a parade. July 4th, 2026 will actually be a Saturday. So Brian and I have started to work again with our committee to plan activities around that. So nothing specific related to the 250th right now, except for the bells and the Liberty Tree. So more to come on that.
I don't see Don on the screen, but
Yeah, very impressive initiative. Thank you, Brian, and everyone else involved in this project. I think it's a great project, and thank you for your time.
Welcome.
Doing all this.
Okay, so you'll get back to us and let us know.
we will.
Okay, great.
So we've had no executive sessions since our last meeting. At this point, I'd like to open up the floor to communication from citizens. If there's anyone who would like to address the board, please either raise your hand and be recognized or click the raise hand button on Zoom to be recognized. Anyone? Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm Luke Shupp. I reside at 3502 Brook Valley Road. This has been ongoing for a while. My wife and I have saved for the past 2 years, and we just recently got married in August. My family has owned our property for over 50 years. I am currently in the process of trying to get a mortgage and figure out how to pay for everything that my grandfather worked so hard for. And you guys are absolutely just ruining it with all of this Mount Zion Water District stuff. It is absolutely ridiculous. We're lucky enough that we probably make enough money that we'll be able to have several months of financial hardship and come out of it okay. You need to think about a lot of the older people that have worked all their lives for their properties that they currently own and can't afford to do this because they don't have jobs and they live off Social Security. I mean, you guys really don't understand the impact this is having on the people on Brook Valley Road. It is beyond what you can comprehend. And I just ask that you guys take all this into consideration and try to help us out, because a lot of us are at wit's end with all of it. It's a lot. We just got married, we paid for a wedding. I've been saving for this house to be the third generation to own it. And we're gonna have to wipe all of our savings and everything, and we're not gonna be able to put a down payment down for the mortgage now, if this goes through. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Okay, then we will move on to our engineering reports. Environmental, Diana.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have no updates or changes to the report submitted. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
John, civil engineering.
About the only update that I have from my written report is PEMA had reached out to us, Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association, about Springersbury's floodplain procedures for building permits and land developments and things of that nature. And then late last week, we had a a verbal interview with them to go over our process. And I just want to report that the verbal interview, verbal audit, whatever you want to call it, went well. And at the conclusion of our discussion, he said, you'll hear from us in 2 years. So there are some municipalities that are on some kind of restriction where they have to check in with the PEMA every 6 months, but Springersbury's floodplain regulatory system and process is in order. So I just want to let the board know that. He was quite impressed. I had mentioned that many years ago along Mill Creek, because we were talking about the I-83 expansion and the relocation of that creek. But many years ago, the township invested money when many houses got flooded in that area and bought those houses out and took matters into their own hands so that they wouldn't be a continual issue costing FEMA, PEMA, emergency disaster money. But he thought that was pretty innovative to do that. So the township had a lot of good foresight then, and I'm hoping that we continue that great foresight into the future. Any questions?
Questions? Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Next, we have our consent agenda, items A through F. Is there anything that anybody would like to have removed for further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. Authorization to execute the 2025 SPCA Animal Care and Housing Agreement in an amount not to exceed $20,422.
Mr. Chairman, this is a continuation, extension of our annual agreement, our 2024 agreement. Nothing has changed in the agreement other than the annual fee of $20,422, which is around a $1,000 increase from the 2024 rate.
I'll move to authorize executing the 2025 SPCA Animal Care and Housing Agreement in an amount not to exceed $20,422.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have third amendment to our Articles of Agreement between PA American Water Company and Springersbury Township, extending the term until January 1st, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, that is just a time extension. Nothing has changed in the agreement.
And this is for everybody, this is PA American Water Company. This has to do with the sewer system, not with the potable water.
Move to approve the third amendment to the Articles of Agreement between Pennsylvania American Water Company and Springersbury Township, extending the term until January 1st, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you missed item B.
I did. Thank you. Authorization to approve proposal from Buchard Horn to survey the Cadorus Creek Interceptor in a total amount not to exceed $38,995.
Mr. Chairman, this is in regard to the sanitary sewer interceptor along the Cadorus Creek, and recent information found that we don't have accurate survey data on those manholes and the pipeline. So this is in the budget, has been budgeted, and I recommend authorization.
I'll move to authorize approving the proposal from Buchard Horn to survey the Cadorus Creek Interceptor in a total amount not to exceed $38,995.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have subdivisions and land development. First item, SD 2023-0001, final subdivision plan, Poppy Lane Ventures LLC and Christos D. Sakarelos, 1737 Memory Lane Extended.
Mr. Chairman, this item A and item B, I'm recommending tabling both items. Earlier this week, Monday of this week, the developer and the township engineer discussed the road right-of-way width for this property, which the township engineer was requesting 60-foot right-of-way, and they agreed that it needed to be 60 foot, but their development plans do not reflect that, so they need time to go back and edit their plans. So I talked to the solicitor, and we agreed that the best would be to table both items.
Process for that? Motion.
You can certainly table it. I would just confirm that waivers are in place for both plans, correct?
They are not. There's been no action on the waivers to date except by the Planning Commission. We do have representative from New Tech. Nolan Goss is here to speak to the waivers tonight, just specifically to the land development plan, and get some feedback from the Board of Supervisors if they desire to provide that feedback.
Yeah,
We do have the time extension.
That is correct. We've got
Yeah,
time extension on both.
I just wanted to confirm that we're not running up against any time.
We are
issues.
not.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. And the process for that, Mr. Chair, is just you're tabling it. It's not, you don't need a resolution, you don't need approval, you're just moving it to the next.
Future meeting.
Yep.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Like Randall said, my name is Nolan Goss. I'm a civil engineer PE with New Tech, doing the Memory Lane Apartments project and obviously the subdivision project as well. Like Randall said, we spoke with the township engineer and we have agreed that we're going to have to widen our portion of the roadway. Actually, if we want to pull up the plans here. Yeah, we are gonna widen our portion of the roadway by, I think it was an additional, I think 5 feet or so, with that 60-foot right-of-way will be extended out. We are going to do that. Our plans just don't reflect them yet. So everything else, I think we're good on, but we did want to at least bring forth the waivers and get those taken care of tonight if we can. Looking for action on those potentially.
I don't think you can you?
No, I would not, I would recommend that
Okay,
the waivers be addressed at the same time
okay.
as plan approval. I mean, you're certainly, it's up to the board whether they want to hear about them or not, but,
I'd prefer to discuss
Wait.
them all together.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, we can wait and discuss them all at the same time.
Great.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for us on these plans, or if we're just gonna table them, we can wait until next month, I guess, so.
Yeah, I think we'll just table it at this point.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so then we have item C, which is LD 2024-0002, Shiny Shell Car Wash, 3021 East Market Street.
This project has been in front of the board before, and the Board of Supervisors recommended the applicant to look at secondary access on the site, because initially they were asking for a waiver of that. And I've since subsequently heard from the developer, and they provided a memorandum to me, which I forwarded to the Board of Supervisors, indicating what they have done to date since the Board of Supervisors had asked them to exhaust their options out there with the adjacent property owners and so forth. So Mr. Nick Ord is here tonight. There's also a representative from Pannoni here to address the memorandum that was been prepared and answer any of your questions in regard to this project on 3021 East Market Street. Mr. Ord?
Oh, sounds like you can hear me. I was going to try to raise that a little bit, but technically challenged right now. Good evening. It's good to be back. Thank you for the introduction, Randall. I think just to provide some brief context to where we're at since the last time we were here. We previously were before the board at the September meeting. At that time, we were seeking an action on our plan and our associated waivers. During that meeting, we talked about some of the efforts that we had taken specifically regarding the waiver for the 2 points of access waiver request. We understood that some of the concern was around having an additional point to enter and be able to exit from the site, especially in the case of an emergency. As a reminder, the physical boundaries of the site are not wide enough along East Market Street to permit a second driveway within the limits of the property that we are trying to develop on. And so we've taken efforts to try to reach out to our neighbors to try and secure some type of easement agreement that would allow us to access or exit through a neighboring property to be able to exit back out to East Market Street or some other way. Last time when we were here, but before I jump in a little bit more into that, last time when we were here, I think we went through the other waivers in detail. That was the main one that we discussed and the one that mainly had some concerns. So I'll just talk to some of the things that we've done on that and then answer any questions. At the September meeting, the board, asked if we had, in addition to our neighbors, the Firehouse Shops, the Home Depot property, and the Verizon property, asked if we had reached out to York Container, which we had not done at that point, mainly because we weren't aware of that. There was a dirt kind of gravel road that the board made us aware of that connected from the York Container property to East Market Street. And we hadn't reached out to them about trying to connect all the way across to their parking lot. We just weren't sure if that would be physically possible. But taking the feedback from the September meeting, we have been reaching out to that property owner over the last couple months. I came back and reported last month in the public comment. At that point, we hadn't heard back from the owner. Earlier this month, we did hear some from representatives of the York Container property, and they've declined our request for any type of access agreement to be able to use their property in any form, whether it was for a two-way access or even a kind of a gravel emergency escape onto and connect to that existing dirt road that is there. We kind of asked and repeated to try to scale back what we were asking for to just really be kind of for that emergency use, and they again declined that request. So just to kind of run through our other neighbors really quick, and I know this was detailed in the memo that was provided to you. So of the neighboring properties that are around our use, the Firehouse Shops had previously, the owner of that property had previously declined in July of 2024 because of concerns about how that would impact the improvements on their property if we were to try and do some type of cross-access easement there. I just talked through York Container. The other neighbors are the Home Depot property and the Verizon property directly to the east of us. So starting with Home Depot, we had been reaching out to them for a while and not really getting great communication or response back. I think some of that was due to the fact that it's owned by Home Depot Corporation and not very easy to track down or get people that are willing to respond. Since the last meeting, we've been trying to reach out to more and try to get creative on how we could do that, exercising social media channels and trying to find right contacts through LinkedIn and things of that nature. We have gotten somebody that's responded and kind of told us after it's gotten passed through a few people that they're reviewing the request but they haven't, since that time, haven't really been responsive, or they haven't given us a response yet. However, I think there's some concerns up front, given that the access drive between the two properties, there's about 14 feet of grade elevation between the two properties. So if we were able to construct that, and we showed this in a plan form that we sent to them, the access between the properties with that grade change, the easement that would be required would come out into the Home Depot parking lot and run all the way out to East Market Street, which is quite some distance and restrictive to their property as far as having an easement across their whole property for that access. As of today, we still have not received a response back from Home Depot, and we're not sure if we will, to be honest. The last one is the Verizon property. We've had similar kind of outcomes up to this point. A lot of outreach early on in the project that was unsuccessful, trying to get through the right contacts. We did get kind of, in the month of October, we've gotten, I'll say, kind of passed through a few different people in the Verizon Corporation to kind of review. We've sent information that in the requesting meetings, requesting everything laid out. We haven't heard any other responses since let's see, October 5th, other than that they were reviewing. We've consistently followed up on a I'd say multiple times a week basis since that time. Frankly, I think just a issue like this for these big corporations is maybe not a huge priority, and it's hard to get them to respond. So that's what we're here for tonight, and happy to talk through that a little bit more. But we feel that we've exhausted our efforts with the neighbors. We've done all that we can to meet the requirements of the ordinance. The waivers that we're requesting with the plan are the results of our efforts to meet the ordinance as best as we can, and we're asking the board to take action on our plan and our waivers tonight. And with that, we're not confident that adding more time and continuing to table will yield more different results than we've had thus far. We could keep reaching out for the next 3 to 6 months and might still be in the same place that we are today. So that's kind of a brief overview. Our consulting engineer who's here with me, Allison, we're happy to talk through or go through the plan at all, or any of the other waivers, or I'll turn it back to you for any immediate questions.
Thoughts, gentlemen?
I have a question. At the very beginning of your remarks, you said that it was impossible to get 2 accesses to Market Street. And I'd just like to clarify whether your contention is that it would be impossible for any use to get 2 accesses to Market Street from that property, or if what you actually meant was that given what you want to do with the property, you can't get 2 accesses to Market Street.
I'm going to let my engineer answer that question.
I think I can clarify. So the frontage that we have on our lot is only 100 feet wide at East Market Street, and that is a PennDOT roadway, so they dictate what we can and can't do, and according to their requirements that they have out publicly too, they would never allow us to put in 2 driveways that close together on a single lot for the same use.
What about other uses?
Again, it would have to be dependent on what their lot shape is and everything. But just for this specific lot, they would not allow it.
seems to me that there's a piece of land behind where the York County building is now that was not able to build there because of the same thing. They couldn't get an entrance exit on that piece of roadway far enough apart to satisfy the two entrance requirement. Do you remember that? Do you remember that, George? It's over near Heritage Valley Federal Credit Union, that open piece of land that there was a fire access at the far end of the property that is closed off, and the residents wouldn't allow access onto their road. Long, narrow piece of property. Wanted to put in multiple buildings and housing, and because they couldn't get multiple access for the certain length of roadway in there, that had to be turned down.
I vaguely remember one, I don't know if it's the one you're referring to, they actually looked at coming from a completely different direction.
Yes, they looked at that through the development at the far end of the property.
Yes, now that you mentioned that, yes, I do recall that particular one. But your recall is amazing.
I was on the planning commission at the time that one came through. We reviewed that in detail.
If I can, I'll note, I didn't really, I know we talked about this in detail in the last meeting, you know, what we feel like we've done to be able to mitigate within our property. Number one, our driveway by PennDOT standards, we are considered a low volume driveway. Within our property, we do have multiple circulation points where if there's something that's happened on our site, that we will be able to facilitate and move cars out of the way. One of those includes being able to actually turn off the facility and cars can actually drive through it. In addition to multiple circulation points that we've discussed before. I know that doesn't immediately address the driveway issue from East Market Street. But if we're talking about an emergency scenario that's frankly probably a small chance, I mean, don't want to say that something can't happen there. We have ability to be able to circulate cars while emergency services would be able to clear or do what they would do to open that access back up.
All right, I'm going to put the man in the red plaid shirt on the spot. Chief, would you be able to comment on the circulation through this lot? Are you familiar with this plan at all?
No, I'm not actually. If I'm understanding right, you're talking about the 3021 East Market. That's Barnhart's Hotel?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Could we go to the next page? We could show the site plan.
Chief,
Oh, yeah, we got the.
Chief, can you come up so the people online can hear?
Sorry to put you on the spot tonight.
That's okay. Pressed down thinking I'd just be in the corner.
Last time you do that.
Okay.
So I guess my concern is from a safety standpoint, I mean, if we require two access points to the lot, and obviously it's long and deep, not very wide, do you have any perspective that you could share on that for us? I mean, I don't want to get into a position where there is a problem, somebody
Right.
ends up getting in some type of situation that we would be held liable for.
My recollection of the width of that lot, with what they're talking about, I think it would be very difficult once their structures and everything were built. I think the passageways for fire apparatus would be very narrow. And with what I'm seeing on that drawing there, it looks like the only way I'm getting fire apparatus back out of that lot would be to back them out onto East Market Street. Which,
plan that we provided is a fire truck turning.
So I guess My other thought would be access from firehouse shops. I imagine that any of their resistance to access to that property would go away when there's an emergency and you guys need to get there.
We would get there however we needed to and
That's my point.
worry about it afterwards, yes. Providing there was no barriers, man-made barriers that were placed along, property lines or anything like that. Not ideal, but we could make it happen. But I would venture to guess is the same. Most of our incidents there would not be fires. I would think it would be possibly EMS, other related emergencies that would still probably provide some difficulty, not only with access, but also with egress from the property. If we don't have that second access off of the firehouse shops or any of the other properties.
Just for your reference, sir, the plan that's pulled up on the right, it's kind of hard to see.
I'm getting glare.
Is a fire truck. Yeah, you might be able to see it better on this screen over here. Is
Or
a fire
step
truck
up.
kind of turning exhibit. I think the intent, you're right. We would have to. The intent is it would be a multiple point turn at the rear of the property to be able to drive back down.
What is the size of the fire apparatus you're using for that?
40 feet long.
Okay, all right.
And includes the turns into the property with intent there as well.
I would say that it's our experience with a lot of properties that we serve, that it looks great on paper, not so much in reality. And I know there's formulas to use for turning radiuses and stuff like that. They don't always work out. Okay. And there again, not all fire trucks are the same length, the same dimensions. And while it may suit our fire trucks, it may not suit a mutual aid fire truck coming in to assist us if we're tied up on another incident. So, what else can I tell you?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Thank you. Don, Bob, comments?
Bob joined us.
Bob joined us.
I've always been concerned about the site as narrow as it's been, but the chief brings up a good issue.
I do want to add, because it is a PennDOT road and we have to get a permit through them, we can't make that access wider. We're, again, restricted by their requirements.
I'll just throw out my comments that based on everything that I've heard and the efforts that the applicants made and the fact that the Planning Commission took a look at this, I would be personally in favor of moving forward with going through and approving the waivers and conditions as outlined in the agenda.
Any other thoughts from our engineer or from community development?
Have you ever been back to the Barnhart Hotel at all? I mean,
I've
they're
driven back to the back corner of the Home Depot parking lot and over to the firehouse shops proposed entrance, but I have not driven in the property itself.
That doesn't sound like something people would admit to.
I spent some time there looking at the stormwater, and it's sort of serves as like maybe a monthly rental unit, and it's an old facility. I'm gonna say, I don't know how many units are there. I would say at least 14, maybe 20. I don't know if you know how many units are back there. So those units are, that from a building code standpoint, let's start there, right? So it's an old wooden structure, certainly not any kind of fire protection. It's dilapidated. So I realize this isn't the perfect situation, but you will get a updated code building. And as I said, when this issue came up early on, and the grade at the Verizon building, there, right now, if you wanted to drive out to Market Street from that back parking lot, you could physically do it. I mean, you'd be trespassing, but that wouldn't be the issue. So all I'm gonna say is I think that building in its current use, I think is a little bit of it's a dilapidated building, and I don't mean to insult the owner of the property, but you're not gonna see any significant renovation there. And that's all I'll throw out. I think from a public safety standpoint, the current condition out there is probably maybe even a worse condition than I think you would see in this situation.
Can I make another comment?
Sure.
Thank you, John. To that point, our actual building and use is one that the shape of our building is one that can fit in a property that's so narrow like this. Our building is long and rectangular, right? And we've got it all the way up against that side setback. From my knowledge and dealings with the current owner and their desire to sell the property, it's hard for a lot of other commercial uses to be able to fit. We've worked really hard to get a design that does fit well in there. I think this second access dilemma is not unique to our use. If we don't proceed and something else is back here in a year from now, another type of use, I think they're going to be having these same conversations. Is the only comment that I wanted to make, is that our use allows us to fit well in that skinny lot.
Other comments, gentlemen?
I kind of agree. It's a unique piece of property. It's a difficult situation, but it looks like most of the property will not be susceptible to fire, with except for the building that has the car wash actually built into it. And I don't see a lot of opportunity for that building to start on fire. But to the chief's comment, EMS vehicles might have difficulty getting in and out as well if there was somebody that needed medical attention. I like the use for the property. I don't like the property.
You said it well. Well, you want to take a stab at it, George?
Yeah, let's get things rolling here. With reference to subdivision plan LD 2024-0002, I move to approve the requested 7 modifications waivers as listed in the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, you have your approval on that. Now, we have conditions.
With reference to subdivision plan LD 2024-0002, I move to recommend approving the plan as presented with all the, 4 conditions of approval being addressed as listed on the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you very
for
much.
at least making the attempt to accommodate.
Thank you for working with us and all the feedback. We appreciate it. Look forward to being here in the township with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Communication from supervisors. Anyone have anything?
Right?
Solicitors report, James?
Nothing to add in my report.
Questions? Township managers report, Mark.
I have nothing to add to my report.
Questions? Okay, old business. Anybody you need to talk about A, B, C, or D? Do we have anything with volunteer?
That'll be on the December meeting for
Okay.
both the fire tax credit and the fire code.
Okay. America 250 PA celebration, camp security. We want to talk about allowing the bell at camp security.
It's up to you.
So I see a couple of members of camp security here. Any comments from either of you about the America 250 PA celebration and putting a Liberty Bell at camp security?
Quite frankly, I think it's an honor for the township and certainly in recognition of the work that we've done thus far. So I don't know what to say. Ring the bells, you know.
You know, I didn't want to say that without having your input.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. I think we can work together to find a suitable location with the county and with the township. So I'm all for it. So
Perfect. Make a motion quick, George.
For the placement? Talking about for the placement?
Yeah,
Camp
to allow it, working with Friends of Camp Security.
So moved.
That okay, James?
Is that? Let me take another shot. So I'll make a motion to approve working with York County for placement of their Liberty Bell at the camp security project site. The tension mounts.
Anybody?
Second? You need a second?
Yes, that's what we need.
You got it.
Any other discussion? Don?
Well, I don't really understand what the request is. Well, I'm not opposed in any way, but not sure what we're doing.
Allowing them
I mean,
to
all I
place,
heard was, we
yeah,
want to do this, it's not going to cost you anything.
they want to place the bell at camp security, and Friends of Camp Security are welcoming it. So it's up to us to say, yes, that sounds like a good idea.
I just think it's an odd way to go about it. But,
You have a better way.
well, find out what they're really talking about. I mean, yeah, if the point is just to talk to them or to cooperate with them, I'm fine with that. I just don't know what we're doing. If we're committing to anything or nothing or what.
I think we would be committing to
To
having it on the site
Having it on the site,
somewhere,
right.
but site to be
Subject
determined.
to discussing with Friends of Camp Security for the appropriate location.
And the master plan consultant, I think, should be involved in that. And
Well, yeah. I'm not sure that, well,
So Don, you want some wording in an actual motion for next meeting that we can discuss then?
sure. And I'm not even sure when you say camp security, what we're talking about. You know, what are we talking about? You know, the camp security park that exists now, or the whole the combined parcels. And I'm also not totally thrilled about Spring and Sperry Township ceding authority for placing something on our property to Friends of Camp Security. Just because I don't think we should let anyone else decide what we're going to do. I mean, they've been very helpful with the whole process, but why would we?
So if we had them make a recommendation that we get to agree to, would that be to your
Right.
liking? Like any other
Yeah.
recommending body that reports to the board?
That makes sense to me as well. Where would it be placed? How would the public have access to it? Should the public have access to it? You know, those kinds of questions.
And do we know that this timing is going to fit in with our planning for that property? 'Cause I didn't hear anything about timing.
So I'll chime in. There's nothing wrong with approving the continuation of the talking. I think to Mr. Bishop's point, once it's determined where it's placed, when it's placed, how it's placed on your property, the appropriate approval mechanism at that point in time would be a resolution to outline the terms, and you could even put an attachment on the resolution with a map of where that particular bell would be placed.
Sounds like a plan.
So I think that's your better course of action here.
Great.
So I will await instructions for a resolution once conversations commence and you finalize a plan.
So from my point of view, the net effect is we're not saying no to anything and we're not holding anyone up from anything, I don't think.
That's good. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Does that get? Yeah.
So I guess that, given everything that's taken place, I'd like to withdraw that motion. And we'll get the information that Don wants and follow a different path to get there.
Good. All right, so we have the Mount Zion Druck Valley Road Water District discussion in old business.
So, Mr. Chairman, the Solicitor Sanders and I met with York Water most recently on October 23rd. And in summary, the water company, and correct me if I'm misspeaking here, James, the water company is not interested in amending, editing anything with the current agreement that was from 1985 that still stands today, and said that the township has a mandatory connection ordinance and they expect us to follow it. So that leaves us with where to go from here. Some of the things that we've already discussed briefly include we can always extend the 6-month requirement to some longer time, 10 months, 12 months. My original letter was sent out in early September of this year. So we can extend it, till July or or September of '25 or any other time.
So the agreement with York Water does not determine that.
It does, but the cap, or in addition to that, would be the township could, upon request from the resident, the township could pay the connection fee to York Water and have a written agreement with that requested property owner with some payment agreement to pay the township back for the expenses that the township has sent to York Water on their behalf. So that would be two options that I can think of.
So none of the fees involved with connecting to this water line come to the township, they all go to York Water?
The current fee is $1,750. That goes up $50 a year by ordinance, so in January 1 of '25, it goes to
The money
$1,800.
goes to York Water.
We're just the pass-through. We collect it, send it to York Water. The same amount. We don't keep anything of that connection fee.
The resident would still then be required to hook up to the water supply.
Yes. And do you want to handle that? Because we talked about that earlier, James.
So yes, at our initial discussion, it was brought up by one of the senior leaders at York Water that in their tariff, which is what dictates what they can and can't charge and how they go about their business, there may have been a possibility of paying a one-time fee, or they referred to it as a credit, for those that pay the connection fee but don't connect. That was then clarified by their legal counsel that that is not how that tariff works, and that's an accounting mechanism, for lack of a better term, internally for them to meet the tariff, and that in fact, when it comes through, when the water connection comes through, you're required to connect per the ordinance. So that's why York Water is coming back and saying, we expect you to follow what your ordinance is per our agreement. So, does that answer? I think that clarifies where we're coming from on it.
What's the magnitude of this issue? I mean, how many homes potentially are impacted by this that would be?
I don't have the exact number of letters that I sent, but 45, 46 letters, 47 letters is the amount of letters I sent of the homes that are within 150 feet. I don't have a number of residents who, for a lack of a better word, are opposed to the mandatory connection. Certainly, there's a number that are eagerly waiting to connect, but certainly that's not the case for everybody. But I don't have a number of, out of that 40-some, there's X that don't want to connect, period.
This water district we're talking about, so we understand the magnitude today, but is there the potential that in the future, York Water unilaterally decides to continue with their water line and more properties in the future could be impacted? Or is this kind of like the last section of the water district impacted by what they're doing?
I don't know to confidently say that this would be the last. Certainly in this area that we're talking about, there's Trout Run Road that doesn't have public water. So I guess that could be an extension that York Water would want to make in the future. I don't know. But I would venture to guess there's not a whole lot more opportunity. That's just a guess on my part.
So I have I guess more of a technical question. So the people that want to connect, they can't connect right now, right?
Very soon they connect, because the York Water notified me a week or two ago, maybe a little, 3 weeks ago, that the lines tested, chart, whatever they need to do, the line's ready.
Okay. And that's all of it.
That is out to the, beyond the Pelham Township line.
Okay.
So recommended actions moving forward then would be on a case-by-case basis with with an individual resident, talking to the township, work out a plan for paying the hookup charge. And we would take that payment over time. We would
Correct.
immediately forward the hookup fee to York Water Company.
Correct. The full amount we would front, and then whatever the payment agreement would be with that particular parcel.
And that payment agreement over time, we're saying that that could be up to 12 months. Is that
That
what-
seems reasonable to me, but the board could set that. And whatever we decide, the final decision is, I will send a letter out to the same 40, however many I sent out originally, outlining what the final decision is.
And then, James, you said that York Water's legal team clarified for you that the hookups have to be made.
Yes, they clarified and said the expectation is that the township will enforce their ordinance per the agreement.
And what's the time frame for that requirement?
By ordinance is 6 months.
Months.
6 months from when it's available.
The notification letter that comes out from York Water, which I believe that's what Mark was just referencing.
And the letter has not gone out yet.
My original letter went out.
One from York Water saying that the line is ready for them to hook up. That's where the 6-month timer starts?
I believe that's the date. Yes.
So then, that was, the township just received that within the last few weeks. So whatever time, if we're going off of when the line is ready, whatever time extension or timing we want to mandate would go off of that date. So if we're going to stick with 6 months, it would be 6 months from that date. If we're going to say 10 months, if we're going to say 12 months, would be from a October date or maybe an early November date. I don't have that information, but it was recently that I was notified by York Water.
I'll allow a couple of brief comments here. So this isn't some townships, this is our township with a very specific ordinance that was put in place 45 years ago, 40-some years ago.
85.
85.
Coming up on 40 years.
Coming up on 40 years, 39 years ago. That was before any of us were on the board, and we have a legal obligation that we have been exploring every way possible with York Water Company to find a way around this.
Understood, and I appreciate all the efforts that everyone on the board has done. I can, my neighbor over here gave a very emotional speech at the beginning of this meeting, and I know you all appreciate that, and you've been trying to figure out a way to address this. So, again, no emotion, no comment. I'm just trying to understand the difference between an expectation of the water company and a requirement of the water company. Maybe not a question for this board, but you use the word, there's an expectation to hook in, and there's a requirement to hook in. That is much different.
Well, they have an expectation that the township will uphold its end of the contract so that they don't have to enter into any type of legal action against us.
It would trigger a potential breach of contract action against the township, which is, so they have the expectation, the township has the requirement. Township doesn't enforce the ordinance, which is clearly outlined in the agreement. It's just like if you have your own contract, if you don't fulfill one of the terms of the agreement, the other party that's aggrieved by it has a right to remedy that situation. So that's in essence the.
Right, I'm just trying to, so, understood. I'm just trying to understand how they're recouping that money from 1985, right? It's the connection fee that's going up $50 a year.
Right.
And it's the $24 a year surcharge that we got in the letter.
Yep.
Right? So that's the money that's going back to pay that bill. Whatever that outstanding money is. I heard it's over $500,000 still from 1985. That's the money going to pay down this bill that the township owes. But their expectation then is they're gonna get business. But the township's requirement, right, is to pay down that financial burden that they entered in 1985. The business end of that, our connection to the water, has nothing to do with that $500,000. None of that money is going.
That's not true.
So the repayment mechanisms are as follows, coming out of the agreement. You've got a connection fee, right? So just like with sewer connections that, when a sewer line's run, we have the same 150-foot requirement. The water company has the same connection fee. So that's your
$1,750.
$1,750. Then on top of that, there's a surcharge on your water bill, and how much? It's $2
A month.
a month. That's the other repayment mechanism on the principal balance of the loan outstanding to York Water. Now, the water charge, that's purely their business side of paying for your usage of the water. And again, that's going directly to York Water. We're just purely the pass-through.
So just so I understand, so what I laid out is correct. It's the connection fee, it's the $24 a year surcharge, but the business end of it, the actual water charge of usage for the connection that they're expecting, doesn't go down, doesn't pay down the burden that the township has financially with it. So what I laid out is correct.
That's my read of it, yes. That's what's outlined in the agreement.
So that's the difference I want to make sure we understand, is that expectation of the water company is not paying down what the township owes. It's the connection fee and the $24 a year surcharge, not the money that you have to spend on water. Thanks. Mike Adams, 3420 Drop Valley Road.
I think his microphone died.
Oh, did it?
Mike Adams, 3420 Druk Valley Road. All right, just to clear something up, since we're a little confused on this. The ordinance with the township is not the Druk Valley Road expansion, it's the Mount Zion Road expansion. So the potential.
Oh, it's called the Mount Zion Water District, which includes a number of roads.
Right, like I'm saying, they can expand, the potential to expand that is endless.
No, it's within the Mount Zion Water District, which
Okay,
is
so there's only
a
one road
limit.
left that's not connected to? Is that what you're saying? Because
I don't know.
Trout Run Road was
which-
the only one that you said could be a potential for
No,
expansion.
that's the only one on the top of his head that was a potential.
Okay. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with construction, but the connection that Kinsley's gonna do is not gonna start till maybe December, I've heard. They gotta tap, first of all, we've been under construction since I bought the house in May, okay? They were just there today doing repave work, which they're gonna eventually dig the entire road up again because depending on where the house is, the water main is on the far side of the street, they're gonna have to dig across. So Kinsley's still gotta come back and do, he was saying 45 services, I'm guessing, across the road to the curb box. So that's the fee that's gonna pay Kinsley to do the work, I'm guessing, for the water company or whatever. That's not the fee that have our plumber's not gonna connect to tap the main, run the curb box and run to the house. That's a whole separate thing. So I just don't you're talking about $14.75 to run the curb box. Sure, that should be free, honestly, because that's their property. You only own from the curb box to your house. So technically, the water company should be paying for the service to the box, tap the T. We shouldn't be having anything to do with that. Also, just a
Well,
side
I don't
note.
think that that's what you're paying for.
So what's the connection fee then? Just to connect? Just to say, hey, I connected? And that's the $14.75? Because you're gonna pay a connection fee, and then you still have to pay a plumber north of $5-6 grand to run this copper into your house to the curb box, dig it up, put it below the frost line, and then you have to have a pressure reducer, because most of our houses are old, run on CPVC. They can't handle 70 PSI of water pressure, okay? And on top of all that, they're gonna come back, the road's gonna be under construction till next year. We'll say it's spring is when the services get done. Then it has to be repaved. And it's a state road. I live on a state road, I understand. Traffic's ridiculous. But besides the construction, the traffic and everything, we're not gonna have the road. It's brutal driving down Drunk Valley Road. It's not gonna be repaved till probably next summer.
So what's the point about the paving?
The point is, all of this is ridiculous for a resident. I just bought the house. I shouldn't have to deal with all this. It was never told to us when we bought the house in May that they were gonna be doing all this. And another side note is, I don't know if the guys told you at Kinsley that they hit almost everyone's service lateral, or for plumbing, or I'm sorry, sewer lateral. Almost every one of them. They had a vac truck. They're supposed to spot the things by eye. They hit my sewer lateral. Did the township hear about any of that? How they put fern coats on to repair these things? Probably not. Kinsley has been causing a nightmare in our neighborhood. But you guys do what you want with that. Thanks.
And this will be the last comment.
So I guess I'm just looking for, can the township also, we're not really worried about the $1,750. The problem is I'm not gonna be able to afford $10,000 to pay a plumber, which is per your ordinance, for a licensed plumber to come out and hook up. Is there some way that we can combine all of that into something that we can pay back over time? Because that's the money I don't have. The money for the hookup fee is not an issue. It's the ordinance that you guys are requiring us to have a licensed plumber come in and do the rest of it that we don't have the money for. The $1,750 is not a problem. The $10,000 to pay a plumber to come in and dig from my yard to my house and hook all of that up is the problem. We're not worried about the $1,700. That's chump change in the grand scheme of things when I have to pay $10,000 for a plumber. That's the money that we don't have. So if you guys, I don't know what the solution is, but if we could come up with something to help those of us who don't have that money out, that's just what I'm looking for. We're not worried about the York Water Company side. It's the hookup fee by a plumber that you guys are requiring that's the problem. So that's just where I stand.
Thank you. Well, I think we've heard what the options are that we actually can provide here. I mean, the township is not in the business of financing things like that. We're kind of stepping out of our territory here to even provide the hookup, because we already had the mechanism to pay that money to York Water Company, but not the mechanism to be managing and paying for sewer hookup, or for water hookups for each house with different plumbers and different costs and everything else. That's not something that we're designed to take on. I think we've been extremely reasonable trying to find a way to extend the amount of time that it takes to do this and to provide some relief for the hookup fee. So I would like to kind of finish this up here and decide exactly how we're going to do this. So, and if any of my fellow supervisors has a recommendation as how to word this, I would be open to any support.
I'm not convinced that we have enough information to resolve this evening. I mean, I'm not sure what we would even be resolving. I think we've already resolved that, you know, we're going to enforce our ordinance. And the rest of this is, you know, maybe there would be creative ways that we could have influence over helping residents out, and maybe there's not, but I'm not sure that and we don't really even know the scope of the problem. We have estimates that there's 45, 46 houses, but we don't know, you know, how many of them, you know, even need help. Is it only the people that have showed up here, or is it, you know, 90% of them? But I'd be hesitant to rule anything in or out at this point, other than that we don't have a lot of choice when it comes to, you know, enforcing our ordinance. My thoughts.
So what other information do you need, Don?
Well,
or do we just want
to
to
do
kick
what?
this down the road to another meeting or two?
I mean, I'm not sure what kind of action we would take tonight.
In my mind, we'd be authorizing the manager and his staff to work with individuals who come in with a need to find a way to take care of paying the hookup fee and the amount of time that they can pay that back. And if we're going to talk about the duration of time that until we enforce the actual hookup. I think those are really the only two levers that we have.
And I really personally haven't heard enough about the loan option in terms of how that would work, the administrative requirements to do that, to enforce it. When we don't have repayment, what do we do then? What are options? I mean, I don't know enough about that program that I'm ready to act on something like that tonight. The extension of time sounds like it's fairly harmless. Unless somebody speaks up, I'm seeing no harm in giving more time for residents to figure this out.
I hear what you say, Mr. Dvorak, about the payment, because we have struggled in the past with past due sewer debt, and people accumulate 10, 15, however many $1,000s in past due sewer debt, whatever the amount is, and we get a written agreement with them, and some people don't follow through with even one payment. Some people make several payments and then stop, and we're chasing them
Well, and
And
based on what I
it's-
heard tonight, I'm not convinced that we're really helping the residents because this is the tiny component of what it's going to cost to implement this. So does this really have an impact? And I'm not convinced it does.
I'm not sure that it does. It was just options I
No,
threw
I
out
get,
there
I
too.
understand, I appreciate the
But
thought, but
that statement I just made about past due sewer debt is real. That's one of the reasons why we outsourced that to Portnoy Law, because it was a tremendous amount of time our finance department was putting telephone calls and whatnot, trying to get people to honor their agreement. So yes, this is much less than some of those past due sewer debts I was talking about, but I don't know what the legal mechanism would be and the hassle would be if somebody doesn't follow through with the agreement.
do we know of, and I'm sure you brought it up if we did, but I'm assuming we don't know of any state or any type of grant funding or loan programs that the state may have, or
This-
any entity may have that may help them with these?
The state has a program called Penvest, which is low-interest loans typically designed for low-income families and municipalities. So I can certainly include that information in my letter whenever I send my final letter out.
Do you think that would apply to this situation?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Penvest because we don't typically qualify for that program, but I know it
Individuals could.
exists.
But individuals potentially could.
They potentially could.
Okay.
So it sounds like you want to take a little bit more time to pull a package together and present it to us at the next meeting.
I can do that.
And I would ask my fellow board members to provide any input for what they would like to see, what they would like to hear in the interim, so that that our staff can be fully informed in the latitude that they have to work in.
Did we ask York Water if they have a program to help individuals?
Yes,
We did.
they don't.
They don't. It's a tough one.
It is. So we will revisit this next month. All right, we'll move on to new business authorization to advertise the 2025 proposed budget. Do I hear a motion?
I move to advertise the 2025 proposed budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Set time for January 6th, 2025 reorganization meeting. Gonna suggest 6 PM.
It's fine with me.
This is Monday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
6 works for me.
Times and dates for 2025 regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors. Second and fourth Thursday of each month, 7 PM, with the following exceptions: June, July, August, fourth Thursday only. November 3rd Wednesday only, December 2nd Thursday only. Any issues with that? We don't need a vote on this, I mean.
I mean, technically no, but it's kind of nice to have
All right, we'll do
Approval.
that.
on record.
Move to approve setting the dates and times for the 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors as outlined on the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Dates and times for budget work sessions.
Move to approve setting the dates and times for the budget work sessions for the 2026 budget as outlined on the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, takes us to the end of our agenda. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.